Okay, I hear you. You want to be able to split press. So a press is any time that we go up into a handstand, and rather than like jumping up into that handstand, we kind of float the leg effortlessly up. Well, it's not so effortless. We make it look that way, but I promise it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of work to come into any handstand press. But one of the ones that you can do that makes it a little bit more doable is a split press. And you don't have to have the full splits down on the floor, but it does help. So if that's something that you're looking for with me today, if you haven't already warmed up the hamstrings, and I'm talking get them working, strengthen them, because getting that blood flowing to the backside of the legs and then coming into some flexibility, you're gonna have a lot more to work with. So if you haven't, think about a standing forward fold. And when you do these forward folds, I'm not looking for these rounded ones. I'm looking for a long spine, think compression, hinging at the hips. When I say compression, I mean between the tops of the thighs and the belly. So using the deep core muscles, draw yourself in. I like to grab the backs of my legs or my heels and really pull in, or use your sticky mat, pull yourself in for a nice deep forward fold. You can also do these seated, grabbing the sides of the feet. But you see how automatically when I go for it, I hinge at the hips, I don't round the back. So I hinge at the hips, I think compression between the low belly and the thighs, and then I keep the spine as long as I can. I know there's some rounding, I'm working on it, and I fold in nice and deep. So that's a great way to stretch out the hamstrings, but you may also want to do some straddle folds. That way you're stretching out the inner groins as well, a little bit through the hips too. You'll always want to stretch out the shoulders and the wrists before you do any handstanding or any pressing. Just take my word for it, warm up the wrists. 5 minutes, do some planks, do some circular movements. Put a little weight in the hands in things like plank and down dog before you start jumping up into a handstand. And then also a great way to stretch out the shoulders, tried and true puppy pose. Yeah. Because if you cannot get the shoulders so open that you have a nice long line here where the armpit is fully open, this is what more people tend to look like. And while this is fine, it makes it really hard to come into a full extension in handstand. So get those things going for you first. Hamstrings, shoulders, wrists, always the wrists. And then specifically to come into a split press, like I said, you don't have to have splits on the floor, but it sure does help. So after you stretch out the hamstrings, some lunges. Because in the lunge, yeah, I'm not stretching out this hamstring, but I'm stretching out the opposite hip flexor. So spending a little time in the lunge, walking back to the half split. I tend to go back and forth quite a bit until I can make my way all the way down to a split. Now I stretched a little bit, 5 minutes before this video, but splits aren't too bad for me. But make sure that you do both sides. So even if you do split press with one side particularly, the idea, especially in yoga, is that we want to become balanced from side to side. So even if you always split press off of your more flexible leg or your stronger leg, you still want to try to get both sides working for you. So give me just a sec while I stretch out both sides, because it's hard for me to demonstrate things if I haven't stretched out myself. Alrighty, there we go. So let me first show you what a split press will look like, and then we're going to talk about some ways to slowly start to come into that. So here we go. We're going to think about, I'm going to lift my top leg. My right leg is my stronger leg. Now you see I don't have a full standing splits here. That doesn't have to happen in order to do a split press. But what is happening is the legs are splitting. So I'm going to come off of this leg. This leg is pushing, the shoulders are pushing, the upper back is rounding, the belly is tucking in, the ribs are tucking in. I'm getting a little lean, shoulders over the wrist, and the top leg, the lifted leg. So this hamstring better be the open one. This leg better be the strong lifting leg. All right, so this is my leg I'm kicking off of, but it's also the hamstring I'm stretching out of. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna come all the way up on the tiptoe. I'm gonna get the hip as high as I can, and then this top leg, my left leg, it's going to have to start a lift. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm already getting, tuck in here so you can see, I'm already thinking of getting compression between the top of the thigh and the low belly. See, there it is. There's that compression. And as I lean forward, the shoulders are going to go back, the hips are going to go forward, the top leg is going to pull me up into the air. So lift. And then it doesn't matter what you do once you're up. You take whatever handstand shape you want to take. But that's a split press. See, there was no jumping off of that lower leg. It was a split and a lift. So the things that you need to think about: leaning the shoulders over the wrists, really big push. And if you don't want to lean the shoulders over the wrists, you don't have to do that, but then you'll have to allow the elbows to bend a little bit. Two different options. With the elbows bent, a bent arm strength is a little bit harder. It's okay, you can do it. So more strength from the shoulders. Or you can use the flexibility, taking the shoulders over the wrists, a little bit more flexibility, a little less strength per se. But they're both tough, so try both, do both. Sometimes taking the wrists, the shoulders over the wrists can be a little tweaky on the wrist for different people. But I thought it was a great way for me to begin pressing, and then I was able to develop the bent arm strength. Okay, so you're gonna take the shoulders over, you're gonna take the shoulders forward, and then once you start to lift that top leg, two things have to happen. Not only are you pushing very strongly out of the shoulders, but you get this teeter-totter motion. I mentioned it. The shoulders go back, the hips go forward. So the shoulders go back, the hips go forward, the hips go up, the shoulders go back, and in order for you to get that open chest, that open shoulder, the open armpit, and then as the hips go up, now we're gonna get a little float and a little bit of balance, and you're gonna find that press, okay? So here's what I would do if I was just beginning my press journey and I wanted to do a split press first. Get your splits. Get a good strong split. Get a really strong plank. Get a decently strong handstand, because you need to have very strong shoulders. Although I do think it's possible to work press at the same time as working the handstand itself. Okay, get something like, this is just an exercise step, man. You can get them at Goodwill, you can get them at Walmart. I got mine at TJ Maxx, I think. Way to go, Reebok. So this gives you a little bit of height, I don't know, 7 inches or something like that. And that tends to be where the most difficulty is. It is not near the top, near the handstand. It's this bottom 6 inches that seems to keep us tethered, weighted to the floor. That first couple of inches is where all the work is. And you've heard me talk about this before, but if this is where the struggle is, then we're going to work on the reversals. We'll get to that in a second. So in order to start practice this split press, let me tuck my shirt back in so you can watch that compression. All right, I'll do it off the left leg this time, which happens to be my better split leg, although I've got a little hamstring pull right now. So the left leg is going to be my one that I'm actually doing the splits with. This is the one that the hamstring is going to take the length, but the top leg is going to lift. All right, you have to think of pulling with that leg to lift the hips up into the air. And then what's gonna happen? The shoulders are gonna go back, the hips are gonna go forward. I'm gonna seek that handstand. So here's that lift into the top leg, split. Over we go. No big deal, guys. I've heard from the comment section like, oh, you never fall. I fall all the time. I fall all the time. And that's gonna happen in your handstand journey, your press journey, your forearm stand journey. If you're not falling a lot, you're probably not doing much, you know? You gotta get out there and allow yourself to have these quote unquote failures, struggles. That's where you're going to get stronger. That's where you're gonna learn a lot. All right, so let's do it again, maybe without a fall this time. I'm gonna lean into it. See how I'm on the tiptoe here? I'm coming all the way up on the tiptoe because I wanna get the hip as high as I possibly can. Because it's hard to get the hip all the way up over the shoulder. So I'm gonna come into the fingertips, I'm gripping the mat, I'm all the way up on the tiptoe, and my top leg is going to pull me up. Now to work that strength, I want you to work on slowly, 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 lowering back down. Not so bad when there's a step, but once you start kicking up to your handstand, slowly, 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 work on lowering it down. So this is how you'll begin to split press up. Let's show what it's gonna look like to split press down. Let's say, Kelsey, I cannot press at all. I have to jump. Cool, that's fine. That's great. We all start with jumping. Jumping's great. So you can work on lowering as slow as you possibly can. That's your reversal, that's your negative. You can do it to a block, you can do it to actual yoga blocks, you can do it to the couch. Anytime you're lowering down, think to yourself, I'm doing it with as much control as I possibly can. And to be honest, you may do it for a year or more. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're building the strength, the confidence, the awareness in order to lower down slowly with control. And the same muscles that took you down will be the same oh, my nose ring, will be the same ones that take you back up. All right, so that will look like this. Say you can't press at all, and you have to jump, no big deal. With time, jump less and less and less. So let's say it looks like this at first. Big jump. Lower slowly, slowly, slowly. And then with time, a littler jump. Lower slowly, slowly. These are not great lowers. So you get into your handstand. I want you to push out of the shoulders. Push, 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 push. Start hugging the thigh to the belly in order to resist as much as you can. And in the beginning, you'll feel like you're just falling. It's like not even slow falling, you're just falling. But something will happen in the first few months or even in the first year where you're gonna feel it. You're gonna start to be able to control your landing. And as you can see, I don't control every single one of them, but I control every single one that I can. And that last couple of inches, that's the sweet spot, okay? That's where all of your strength and your awareness gets made. Now, like I mentioned, you're going to jump. Let's work on jumping less. So that's gonna require at first, maybe you jump, and you jump so many times, you're getting so strong through this leg. But with time, I want you to get to the point where you just little tiny hops up to your handstand, okay? And then pull that thigh in, resist, resist, until you can land softly. All right, so let me show you what maybe this will look like if you're working with blocks. I like cork. Cork's a lot more stable. It's not likely to roll away from you. Now this might even be higher than that, yeah, that's higher up than the step. So maybe you just need one. In the beginning, you might even be pressing off the side of your couch because it's a good 2 feet up in the air. So work on lowering your height a little bit at a time. The couch, a kitchen chair, a bench, a step stool, 2 yoga blocks, 1 yoga block, and you want to slowly get to the point where you're not even using any kind of height helper at all. All right, so this is just 1 yoga block. I'll show you with a foam one too. That way you can see that it is doable even if they roll away from you. So here's my yoga block. I'm going to split press up. I'm getting ready. I'm pushing out of the shoulders. I'm rounding through the upper back. My gaze is down, not coming back. This is really hard. So look down between the thumbs. Lean forward. Lift into your top leg. And I'm not sure if that was a jump or if it was a lift. Whatever, who cares? Reverse, reverse, slow, slow, slow. And I'll tell you that reversal, that slowing happens from the pushing of the shoulders and the pulling in of the abs. All right, so that was a cork block. Let me show you with foam. Because sometimes people get scared with foam, and I get it, because I've definitely rolled an ankle, I've definitely rolled over a toe. Here's 2. You can do 3, you can do 4. They may fall away. It's okay, not a big deal. Bring the hands down. You see how short this is though? It's not like this. When people come into it like this, that's a really hard press, because look, I can't get the hip over the shoulder. I want to have the hip as high up over the shoulder as I can get it. See, even that little bend of the arm actually does help, because then the hip is already up nice and high, and it doesn't take much to just kind of boop, float it up. The leg has to be active. I should have mentioned that. In the beginning of my pressing days, I flexed the foot a lot. So especially like with a puppy press and a straddle press, I had a hard time getting the leg to activate, so I would press through the heel, and that helped me, and maybe that's something that you want to try. But with a split press, it feels a little bit more natural to really point the toe or demi-point the toe. So here's a point, here's a demi-point. Either way, with that toe point, demi-point, you're activating the leg, okay? So with 2 blocks, it didn't roll away from me, but it could. So let me show you what it would look like if it rolled away from you and the worst that would happen. Let's do the other leg. Okay, so I want to press, and I'm worried the blocks are going to roll away from me, and they do. And they do. What had happened in order for that to happen was, as I pushed into the shoulder, instead of lifting up through the leg, I kept the weight on my grounded leg, and my grounded leg pushed the blocks back. No big deal, no big deal. I mean, maybe you may stumble forward a little bit, If you're to the point that you're handstand pressing though, you probably have pretty good strength through the wrist and the shoulders, and you'll kind of just walk forward a little bit, you'll cartwheel out, no big deal. I have stubbed a toe pretty good with pressing, and it wasn't the end of the world. So you have to be willing to take some risks when it comes to something that's kind of cool like this. It's gonna happen, we're gonna fall, we're gonna fail. So once you've perfected the 2-block method, then you wanna lower to maybe just 1 block, and you're always, always, always going to work that reversal. Remember, gaze is down between the thumbs, I'm shifting, and I'm pulling to that top leg. Now I wanna go back down, so I think thigh to belly, pull it in, push out of the shoulder, resist. But I promise, I promise, for our first year or two of working reversals, because I'm 42, that first year or two of working reversals, it felt like I'm just falling and I'm not controlling, but I was trying, I was thinking about it, I was trying to harness that energy, and it did come. Okay, so I will do a whole video on reversals, how we can use the wall for that, how we can use props for that. But in the meantime, you still think about it, you still aim for it, you still try for it. Remember, it's the shoulders and it's the abs, it's this compression here, it's the pushing here, and it will come. Just keep showing up for your practice. Make time for your handstands, make time for your presses. I wish I knew who it was, but there was a guy on YouTube, and I had researched, like, why can't I handstand? Because I wanted it so badly. And he said the #1 reason you aren't handstanding is because you aren't handstanding, because you're not making it a part of your daily life. And I'm not saying you have to do it every single day, but you need to be doing it 4 or 5 days a week. It is not a common thing for us to be walking around on our hands. But the more that we do it, even just 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, at the end of your practice, you're gonna see in a year, there's gonna be this huge transformation in your handstands. I mean, I don't have huge arms, but I have pretty vascular arms. And that's because of the handstanding that comes with that constant repetition, showing up, the awareness, the discipline, and the desire. Yeah, we could do a whole video on how just the desire of your mind alone, it can get you there. So think about your handstanding, imagine it, watch me do it, and instead of feeling frustrated or discouraged, like, ugh, I can't do what she does. Instead, say to yourself, I'm gonna do what she does. I can't yet, but watch me. I'm going to. See it in your mind's eye, put it down as your screensaver on your phone, write it in your journal, tell yourself, in 6 months I will be, or I'm so excited that I already can do these things. And I realize it's something as simple as handstanding. People do it for things like money and a specific person and, you know, love and a great career. Why can't you do it for something that you want in your physical body? A handstand, a forearm stand. To feel really strong in your body, is there really much greater gift? I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing the things that our body can do. So imagine yourself in that split class, and if you can't see yourself do it, watch me do it, and then maybe start to replace my image with your own. You can do it. You can do hard things. It doesn't have to be easy, but if you keep showing up consistently, you'll get there. So I've rambled on and on. I hope that helps you get to your split press. You can totally do it. Just keep showing up. Make sure you drink your water. Please share this stuff on your Instagram stories, on your social media. I appreciate you guys so very much. If you're interested in joining our live classes, I have classes Sunday mornings and Wednesdays, and I'm also doing lots of private lessons. Please DM me on Instagram at KelseyOB over there. That's it. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing day. Take care, and namaste.